The newest video game turned movie, Until Dawn, is now in theaters. I saw it and I've played the game. I played the game a lot. I love this game. Check it out. I got the physical copy right here. I went through and played through every scenario that there was. And let me tell you, there are some big differences in the movie compared to the game. So what I'm gonna do today is go through and compare what the movie does, what the game does, how they're different, and everything in between. So needless to say, this is gonna be a spoiler-filled video. So if you haven't played the game, if you haven't watched the movie, make sure you go check that out and then come back and watch this video, okay? Let's get started. The first thing we gotta talk about is the differences in the story. The movie's about this group of friends, and one of the friends, her name is Clover. Her sister goes missing, so all of them are going to the last known location, and they get stuck in this time loop where something is after them every single night, and when they die, they come back. It's kind of like Groundhog Day in a way, and something else is after them. It's different every time, and they're just stuck in the supernatural time loop. And in the original game, this group of friends are stuck in a remote cabin in the middle of winter while being hunted by something that they don't know what it is yet, but they are fighting for their life, and they have to make it till dawn until they are rescued. There's no time loop, it's just pure survival horror. Now I know what you're thinking, those two different storylines sound completely different, but you have to remember, Until Dawn, the game, every decision that you make, every relationship that you're trying to mend, whatever you're trying to do in that game matters. Whether this person lives, this person dies, everything's up to you. Everything is up to choice. It really plays on that butterfly effect concept, and I think what they were trying to do with the movie is do their best in making sure that these characters have these decisions to make and these consequences, and that's what the time loop I think comes into play. Not the way I would have done it, but I can see what they were kind of going for. Next up is the setting. Now in the game, they are stuck in this remote cabin in the middle of winter, and they are just trying to survive not only whatever is after them, but the actual elements and nature that's just pounding them with snow, that's keeping people from actually rescuing them. They get in touch with people, but they can't get to them because the snowstorm is so bad. They are stuck, they are isolated, and it is terrifying. And then you move on to the movie, and instead of being stuck in a snowstorm in the middle of a forest, they're just stuck in a house. But the difference here is that they're stuck in this weird bubble where it's raining all around them, and they're kind of stuck in this weird thing that they can't get out of. So to break it down easily, the game, you're isolated by nature, but in the movie, they're isolated by this supernatural force. Now, one of the ideas that moved from the game straight to the movie is the fact that this town was built on top of these mines, and there were miners there, they were trapped, and basically some really bad stuff happened to those miners in both of these scenarios. In the game, it's called Blackwood Mines, and these miners are trapped and they have to turn to cannibalism in order to survive, and in doing so, they turn into these monsters called the Wendigo. And in the movie, it's the same general story. These miners are trapped because of this collapse that happened in the town, and they had to resort to cannibalism to survive, and they turn into these monsters. And now let's go ahead and move on to the characters of the game and the movie, and there are some big differences here. The game has most notably two characters in it that you've seen before. You've seen them in movies, and you're like, oh, I know that person there in this game, that's crazy. And that is Hayden Panettiere, who plays Sam, and Rami Malek, who plays Josh. And the reason that I point these two out is not because they're the most well-known and you've seen them before in movies, it's because these characters have such a big impact on the story. The other characters in this have a decent, amount of impact on the story, but they're not as important as Sam and Josh. Now, as far as the movie goes, these are brand new characters. None of them have been in the game before. This is starting from scratch, brand new. And the cool thing about it is that all these actors are relatively new and unknown people like Ella Rubin and Odessa A'zion. Now, even though these characters are completely different characters between the game and the movie, there are similarities in what their goals are and what they're trying to do between the two different versions. And both versions feature a group of friends who go back to an area a year after a tragedy has happened, whether that's the game, and they're going back to the cabin a year after Hannah and Beth's deaths, or it's the movie where they're going back to the last known location a year after Clover's sister Melanie disappeared. Kind of the same thing. Now, a character that they left out of the movie completely that was in the game is this guy named Jack. You think that he's the villain in the game. He has this flamethrower, and his fault completely. He doesn't talk to these group of friends. He doesn't say that he is there to help them. He's just this guy with the flamethrower who looks menacing and doesn't say a word. So you think that he's the villain the whole time. Turns out he's there to help them to fight the Wendigo. That character is completely omitted from the movie. I don't know why. I think it would have been cool to throw in another character halfway through the movie to really shake things up and have everyone kind of pointing fingers of what's going on. Is this guy with us? Is this girl with us? Whoever it ended up being. kind of a missed opportunity, but either way, that character, who I think had a pretty decent part in the game, is not in the movie at all. And like I said before, no characters' names from the actual game carried over into the movie, but there are similar relationships that happen in the game that are actually in the movie. There are relationships between couples, there's recent breakups, there are sisters, there's a lot of things like that I think are nods to the game, but not just in your face with it. It's just little subtle things like that. And speaking of nods to the game, there are a few things that are in this movie that if you blink, you'll miss it. If you aren't paying attention, you're gonna miss it. But there are a few things that I wanted to point out. In the game, there's this don't breathe, don't move mechanic where you cannot move the controller at all, and it has a sensor, so if you move even in the slightest, your character is done. That action, whatever is going on, you're done, you're toast. Now in the movie, there's a point where the masked killer is in the room and everyone is staying completely silent, and that's not anything new to a horror movie at all. That happens all the time. But when this is called Until Dawn and they're literally covering their mouths, they're not trying to make any sound whatsoever, it really brought me back to playing the game and not having to move the controller. And let me tell you, if you played the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That part is intense, and I love how it wasn't in your face with it, but it is there. Now this character Megan has this kind of gift, this little supernatural gift where she can feel things, she can kind of tell the future a little bit. That was a little bit of a nod to the totems that are in the game Until Dawn, where it shows you very small glimpses of the future and you're kind of left thinking, what's that? Why is that character in that situation? But it doesn't give you any answers. It just shows you what's gonna be in the future. And there are little hints and nods between her character and what she does and what she says that just, you know, little Easter egg there for you. And sticking with the character Megan, there's a scene kind of early on into the movie where there's a close-up of her and you can see her necklace, and it is a butterfly. Once again, I talked about earlier, the core mechanic of Until Dawn, the game, the whole concept that it's built around is the butterfly effect. Every decision that you make matters, and there's gonna be tons of consequences for little things that you do, whether that's disrupting nature, whether that's yelling at another friend and they run off, whatever it might be. It was a small little necklace thing that if you blink, you'll miss it, but it's there, and I believe it was there for a reason. Now, I'm sure there were a lot more Easter eggs in this movie that I'm not talking about right now. I can make a whole video about that if you want, but more importantly, I wanna know what you caught in the movie that was pulled straight from the game. Drop them in the comments. Now, you know we gotta talk about Dr. Hill, who's played by Peter Stormare, and he is both in the game Until Dawn and he's in the movie Until Dawn, played in completely different roles. So in the game, he only appears in Josh's hallucinations as this creepy therapist that you meet multiple times throughout the game, and he gives you hints of what's to come. He kind of guides you in this direction, but at the same time, you still feel this sinister motive behind what he's doing. And then in the movie, he's just the complete villain. He's the main villain of the entire movie. He's responsible for everything that's going on. So instead of being this guy who's kind of guiding you, but also you don't really know if he's good or bad, no, we know he's bad. He's bad. He tells you pretty early on. So what he does is that he lures groups of people to that lodge, and he uses that time loop to experiment on them, inducing fear and making them die over and over, transforming them into Wendigos. Now, if there's one thing that they absolutely had to include in the Until Dawn movie, it had to be the Wendigos. Forget all the characters, forget the story. If they didn't have the Wendigos in there, that's not Until Dawn. So both versions have the Wendigo, but both versions, the game and the movie, the Wendigos are made very differently. So in the game, the Wendigos are actually the miners that we talked about earlier. Remember we talked about those miners? They were trapped on that mountain, they had to resort to cannibalism in order to survive, and they turn into the Wendigo because of a curse that was placed on that mountain. Very straightforward, kind of believable, and that's really about it. But when it comes to the movie, the Wendigo transformation happens when characters are consumed by fear, anxiety, and just hopelessness and are dying so many times in this time loop, they slowly turn into a Wendigo. Now, even though I really enjoy the game version of what the Wendigo is, how you turn into the Wendigo way over what the movie version does, I will say the movie does play into the idea of depression and everything that goes along with depression and turning into the Wendigo. I thought that was a very creative way to go about it. Not everyone's cup of tea, and I don't even know if it's my cup of tea, but it is something that I thought was pretty creative, and it added a little bit more to something that, even though I don't like it, I have to give a shout out to that kind of topic. Now, when you think of Until Dawn, you automatically think of the Wendigos. They are creepy, they're scary, they leave a big impression on you, and that's basically the core of Until Dawn, right? But the other character that should come to your mind is the Masked Man, and he's in both the game and the movie. Once again, very different between the two different versions. In the game, the Masked Man is actually played by the character Josh, who blames the group for his sister's deaths a year ago at that cabin. He dresses up as this guy, plays this sick prank on them, and does reveal himself as this guy, and he still blames them for what they did. They bullied his sister, and the other sister ran after her, and what they did, even though they weren't trying to hurt anyone, definitely wasn't trying to kill anyone, they were being bullies, and what they did set forth the events that led to them disappearing and potentially dying. He still blames them, and so that's why he did what he did. Harmless fun, but at the same time, there was some anger behind that. Now in the movie, the Masked Man isn't human at all. It's this disfigured guy. He still has the mask, the iconic mask, but you can tell that he's just this zombie supernatural thing. I'm thinking Jason Voorhees type of deal. There isn't really much to him. Although they do kind of tell you that he is the physical manifestation of Clover's fear being put onto this group of people because of the things that she holds back and her inner feelings, and they kind of add a little bit to that character, but it's just, at the end of the day, it's just this person with no personality, and he is just doing his thing, and that's it. Before I give you my final thoughts on which version of Until Dawn is actually the best, the game or the movie, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this. All right, here it is. As far as the movie goes, the time loop is a really cool concept that I actually grew to enjoy. It kept things unpredictable, it kept things fun, but at the end of the day, the movie Until Dawn had characters that were weak and underdeveloped. There's no clear explanation as to why or how this entire time loop is happening. How is Dr. Hill behind this? Is he a wizard? No, I don't think he is, based on what happens to him at the end of the movie. So that was really a letdown because there's no explanation as to why they went this route. It kind of feels like Happy Death Day or even Cabin in the Woods, but just nowhere even near as good as those movies were. And game fans are really gonna hate how drastically it just changes the original story. It just goes in a completely different direction, and in my opinion, it was nowhere near as good or clever as the original. Now, the biggest problem I have with the movie Until Dawn is the way that they treat death. It's the complete polar opposite of the game where death matters, every decision matters, like I talked about before, but in the movie, they even say in the movie, let's just restart. Let's just do it tonight. Let's just do it again. Let's just end this night and do it again. So it kind of gets rid of all the tension and all the weight that a scenario like that should have. So I know that's the core concept of having the live, die, repeat thing. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword where that's the concept and it's fun, but at the same time, it takes away all tension in the movie. Now, as far as the game goes, it's a story-driven game where every decision matters. The whole group can end up making it out alive, or none of them can. It's a simple plot with a few really, really good twists that I didn't see coming at all. You can connect to the characters because you shape the relationships. Like I said, every decision you make matters, whether that's whether you're running from something and it's a live or die situation, or you're just trying to build a relationship with this person because you, for whatever reason, you want them to have a deeper connection, which actually those relationships matter later on too. So everything matters and it has weight. Everything you do in that game has weight. So when the Wendigos attack, you really feel the tension. Like I said, with the controller, you can't move the controller. It's crazy intense. It's done in such a way that you want to keep replaying it over and over again to see the different scenarios, and it's just a lot of fun. Now, having said that, it is a lot of fun, but some of the characters, even though you do grow to like a few of them, some of the characters are absolutely hollow, and some of the most annoying characters in a video game that I can remember. So if you can't tell by now, I definitely prefer the Until Dawn game over the movie. The movie has good ideas. I just don't think it executes them the best way, and I don't think it does it in an effective way, which is really a letdown. They had the blueprint, just make it scary. The director, David F. Sandberg, made Lights Out. He made Annabelle Creation, which was terrifying. So I was really looking forward to this. If they just stuck with the original idea, I think it would have worked. So at the end of the day, the movie is a really fun ride. It's a nice movie to put on with a group of friends, go on a date, whatever it is. It's a fun horror flick to watch. But if you're a fan of the game like I am, you're gonna look at this and look at all the things that are so different from a game that worked really well and just look at it as a missed opportunity. But which version of Until Dawn did you like the most, the game or the movie? Make sure you drop your thoughts in the comments and I'll respond to everybody that I can. And if you like horror movies, make sure you check out my review of Sinners. You can check that video out right here. Thank you for watching and I'll catch you in that video.